This provincial election, we've seen and heard from a lot of politicians, and not necessarily the voters themselves. This week, our Jamie Fisher decided to move from the campaign circuit and hit up the University of Regina campus to see what young people think about the election. She's in studio now to share what she found. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Tori.
So, what do students at the university have to say about the election?
It's really mixed. A lot of students I spoke to said they didn't know anything at all. And that's pretty typical. In the last federal election, only 37% of eligible voters between 18 and 24 actually went to the ballot boxes. At first, the students I talked to seemed to be pretty apathetic.
The ideal is that, it doesn't affect me. And to a certain extent, young people aren't affected as much. Because usually people become political once something affects them. Like the older demographic, they've seen it, they've worked.
Okay, so clearly some students haven't been inspired to follow the election. Has anyone studied why students aren't excited by politics?
There are a lot of theories out there about students in politics. I wanted to hear what experts had to say, so I met up with Dr. James Farney, an assistant professor of political science at the U of R. I asked him why students don't get involved.
If you look at what the election campaign's structured around, there's been a little bit of outreach to young people, the tuition bonus that the Sask Party's talking about, or the cap on tuition that the NDP is talking about. But most of the issues don't concern them.
Well, I can understand then why maybe students wouldn't vote. Did you two talk at all about the consequences of their apathy?
Yes. Dr. Farney said the main issue with students not voting is that it skews public policy. For example, if more young people were involved in politics, the healthcare debate wouldn't be such a big part of our public discourse.
So while you were there, did you come across any signs that maybe students do want to become involved in politics?
Yes, the U of R actually has a really politically involved students' union, and this week they had their first ever fax mob to get students involved in the campaign.
A fax mob?
Well, the students' union set up a table in the Riddell Center and had students fill out forms explaining how much student debt they had. Then, URSU faxed the forms to the NDP and Sask Party headquarters. It was URSU's own Paige Kazima who came up with it. I had a chance to talk with her during the fax mob, and here's what she said about the event.
We know that there's a lot of student apathy, there's a lot of stereotypes about students, and you know what, some of them are right sometimes. So hopefully by having a presence and doing all these things, we're going to get students engaged and at least informed, and hopefully they'll get out to the voting box on November 7th.
I think it's a little strange that university students who use Twitter and Facebook every day would decide to use a fax machine to get attention. Why the old technology?
I wondered that too, and Paige had a great explanation.
That's a good question. I was just thinking of ways that would really get our voices heard and maybe even annoy, the parties for a brief afternoon, just because it's really no comparison to the burdens that students are facing.
How did the students react to this?
All the students I talked to really supported the idea. I caught up with a few just as they handed in their forms. One of them was Chad McLeod, a third-year business student. He works full-time while going to school, but he said it's still a struggle to afford university.
You know what, right now I'm in a huge problem with my money because school is so expensive this year and I have to find ways to live. Yes, I put $20,000, which is actually probably less than what it actually is that I'm in debt. I didn't know the exact number right now, and I just said I owe my parents so much money. I owe the bank money, and I actually owe the government. I have, 3 different loans that I'm trying to,
Another student at the fax mob was Frances Tamman. For Tamman, going to university means sacrificing her independence.
As a student in Regina, I can't afford to pay tuition and live on my own and try and work a job and finish a degree in 4 years. It's impossible. So I have to live at home and I have to get my parents' support with tuition, or I'd have to deal with tons of student debt, and I'm really lucky that my parents can help me, but I owe them a lot of money.
So it sounds like there are some students out there who want to be involved.
Yeah, the fax mob was a pretty big event for the University of Regina, and it was just a small piece of what URSU's been up to this election.
All right, well thanks so much, Jamie, for sharing what you found.
Thanks, Tori.